Hi everyone, it's Shem. Here's another video. This time it's about installation of a wireless mobile device charger onto your motorcycle. I'm going to be installing it on the Honda CRF250L. Most of the installation comments will probably apply to other motorcycles as well, obviously with an exception of connecting it to actual power source. I'd like to take you through a couple of bits why I decided to choose this particular charger, what the quad lock system is, and so on, and my experience with it. But if you cannot be bothered to watch it all, use the shortcuts in the description below the video to jump to the section that you're actually interested in. Right, if you're not familiar with a quad lock system, let me just quickly show you what it is and how it works. So it's a way of attaching your mobile device to your motorbike. They've got a different mounts, but ultimately the principle is very simple, but it's really well engineered. You've got that circle with the fins sticking on four sides, and you've got that shape mimic on the back of your phone case. So obviously you have to get a dedicated case for your phone in order to be able to use this system. But when you want to attach it, you just put it 45 degrees and you twist it and the phone is attached and it's fairly secure. Then if you want to release it, you press that button over here, you turn it 45 degrees and you take it off, right? So simple, fairly straightforward, but a really well designed mount. And as you can see, I've got my mounted over here onto a handlebars. Then I've got another extension here because I wanted the phone slightly higher. I ended up sort of looking down too much and not really paying attention to the road. So it's easier to just quickly glance at the phone if it's slightly higher up. So hence the extension over here. Another comment about the quad lock system, if you're considering it, that I would like to make is that attachment here. Normally you don't really get it with the quad lock system. It's the fairly new thing that they released. It's basically a vibration damper. So there were some complaints from the modern mobile phone users that engine vibrations were damaging the optical image stabilizations in their mobile phones cameras, and I can see that happening. So quad lock designed a device which is basically like a 3-point attachment. All 3 points are mounted on the rubber, and that's supposed to dampen certain frequencies of vibrations, right? So that's supposed to stop phones being damaged, or sorry, rather optical image stabilizations being damaged in your mobile devices. So because I had a pretty old phone, this is iPhone 6s, I don't change the phones until either I have to or there's something wrong with it. So I run them as long as they last. I think this didn't have an optical image stabilization in the phone, so I didn't really have that issue. I bought that vibration damper and then I've realized I didn't really need it, but I knew that I will be upgrading the phone at some point in the future, so there was no harm in attaching it. So with that damper, it's slightly more wobbly than it was without it. It was fairly rigid without the damper, and obviously if it wasn't wobbly, it wouldn't be doing its job of damping vibration. So that's how it works and what it's there for. Let's have a chat about my experience of charging the phone without a wireless charging head in the quad lock system. So so far it's been a little mixed. I mean, I've installed a USB charger behind the light over here. I've got a charging cable coming out of here, and it obviously plugs into your phone like so, and in most of instances it was working fine, but because my phone is relatively old, the battery is dead, so it drains pretty fast. On top of that, I've been using an app up until now where I think it's called a GPX viewer, where it doesn't download much of the map, so it has to use the internet connection as you go along, and on top of that it's using the GPS, so it's been basically draining the battery faster than I was able to charge it, especially when the weather was cold and battery wasn't really working to its full potential. So that wasn't great, but I could work around it. Another issue that I came across with was that I've used different cables, and over time, either because of vibrations or something, the cables started, I think the small cables within those started either wearing or something, and basically the cable stopped working. I had one anchor cable that basically stopped charging, and I've tested it on other devices and things like this, and it seems like, the connection got broken inside. So that wasn't ideal. I've now bought a thicker cable, and that seems to be doing okay. But when the weather is cold or when it's damp and the water gets here, it doesn't always charge, and basically it can be quite frustrating where you're far away from home and you want to rely on the map on your mobile device and your phone dies. So this is one of the reasons I decided to, screw it. I'm gonna get myself a new phone, and that's got a wireless charging capability, because this one being an old phone, I couldn't wirelessly charge it, so there wasn't any point of getting wireless charger when I was purchasing this system. So I got myself an iPhone 12, which actually has an optical image stabilization, so that vibration damper will hopefully come handy and will prevent my stabilization on my camera from getting damaged. And then I decided, because I was really pleased with the quad lock system overall, the design and how it's engineered, to go for this quad lock wireless charging head, right? So the idea is that you plug it to a USB socket, you attach it to your vibration damper over here, and it charges your mobile wirelessly, right? So having a pretty bad experience with the wired charging, I thought, well, wireless charging is definitely not as efficient. But then I started reading about this wireless charging head, and it says that it supports fast charging, and it can, if you send like 9 or 12 volts through USB, it can actually deliver much faster charge to your phone than standard wireless chargers. So I thought, okay, great, but how the hell do I get more than 5 volts from USB? I mean, I've started reading, and up until recently, I always thought that USB is only capable of outputting 5 volts. But actually, it turned out that there are some protocols for faster charging. I think it's called QC, Quick Charge Protocol, and that is able to output 9 and 12 volts out of the USB port, which means that you can charge your mobile devices much faster. So I started looking, okay, I've got that charging head that supports that. How the hell do I get a USB charger that actually supports quick charge? And I've started looking for a dedicated motorcycle USB chargers, and I couldn't really find any that would support the quick charge protocol. And then I came across a quad lock one. And this is a USB charger, and as you can see over here, it's got the QC20 fast charging. So that means that USB port is capable of outputting higher voltage than the standard 5 volts, meaning that I'll be able to get higher voltage to that quad lock wireless charging head, and I will have an option of charging my phone fast using that. Hopefully, because the phone is new and the battery is in good condition, I won't really need it, but the option is there, which is what I wanted. I also wanted to talk about the IP66 rating of these two devices. So for those of you not familiar with the standard, IP stands for ingress protection, and the first digit refers to protection against the dust particles, and the second digit refers to protection against water. So you can look up the tables on the internet and it will tell you what those digits means. In the case of these two devices, number 6, I think is the highest dust protection standard, and that means that no dust particles will enter the device. It's sealed well enough to prevent that from happening. In terms of water, I think 6, so 66 means that you can spray water on these devices from all different directions, and it won't impact how they operate. So they are not designed to be submerged underwater, but you can spray water on them, and it won't have any harmful effect. So obviously for adventure riding, it's quite handy. And as you can, imagine, this USB device doesn't seem to have any seals around here. So I would imagine that the water can get here. And I think they even say in the manual that you're supposed to mount it in an angle so the water can drain, which is what I'm going to be looking at doing. So anyway, it's good that they're waterproof, and also my new mobile phone is waterproof as well. I think it has a higher waterproof rating than these devices, so it seemed to be appropriate for what I'm gonna be using it for. Let's have a quick look what we've got in the box with these devices. So first, USB charger. Nothing surprising here. You've got a cable to connect it to your 12, or I think it takes from 12 to 24 volts. So I'm gonna connect it to the switched power supply, which I've already connected to behind the headlight. I'll probably just cut that cable off and solder directly into the plug and harness that I've made instead of using that. So that seems fairly straightforward. I'm debating whether I should mount it behind the headlight to sort of further protect it from water, or should I put it somewhere on the bike on the quad lock mount, because it's kind of designed to sit somewhere here or even underneath that. And this way, if my wireless charging had ever failed or something like this, I could still get a power from the USB outlet and plug in normal charging cable, as opposed to having to faff about behind the headlight. So I might actually mount the charger here as opposed to doing it behind the headlight as I currently have with my existing USB charger. The actual wireless charging head seems it's actually heavier than it looks. I think the bottom is aluminium, and to disperse the heat, by the look of it, it's got some radiator on the back. And it comes with two cables, the shorter one, so if you mount your USB outlet quite close to the charging head, so I think I'll be using that cable. And as you can see, the actual cable inlet has a seal around it, so when I plug it in here, it will make a watertight connection. So yes, it's water tight on one side, but then it's not going to be watertight if I plug it in over here. So strange, but apparently it's designed to work like this, so it should be fine. There is also a longer cable. If I put my USB charger behind the headlight, I probably would be using the longer cable for that, but I don't think I will have any need for it. Right, in terms of mounting order, I'm gonna attach the charger first. Right, it comes with a longer bolt because it's designed to be then used with that sort of attachment, which I'm not gonna be using because I'm gonna be mounting a vibration damper onto it, which means if you look at the vibration damper, that's on the other hand designed to go straight onto that, which got a fairly short bolt inserted in here. So if I try to attach it onto this one, the bolt obviously is not gonna reach that threaded part. So what I'm gonna have to do is take that apart, just pry off those plastic things and gently detach the rubber from here. And I'm gonna insert a slightly longer bolt so it can go through the hole through the charger and it can reach the thing underneath. Okay, so it's gonna go something like this. And then on top of the vibration damper, I will then attach the wireless charging head like this, making sure that the charging port or the connector port is not blocked by anything. So I'm gonna have to position it carefully against those things onto the vibration damper. As you can see, we've dismantled the vibration damper. You have to be really careful not to damage the rubber, but if you use something soft and push it out of the holes, it's not a problem. And then, obviously squeezing those and pulling it out, a bit finicky, but perfectly doable. So I've attached it using the bolt, and as you can see, the bolt is slightly too long, so I'm gonna mark it and cut it off so it doesn't protrude. And then when we mount the vibration damper, I'm gonna mount it in this position, so the two fins are sticking out over here, so I'm still able to access the USB port. Otherwise, if I put it other way around, I could potentially struggle to access that. So yeah, we're gonna fit it like this. And then the wireless charging head, if you look at it, you need to be able to access that charging port as well. And actually, I think this is how you're supposed to mount it, because you've got a light at the bottom and you've got a button at the bottom as well. So if you look at the location of this port, we're gonna fit it like this. So the actual port doesn't really obviously I've not have the other thing, but it's not gonna be against any of the fins or an extra plastic on here, so you'd be able to put the charging cable onto it without any issues. So yeah, let me do that now. I'm gonna chop off the bolts, assemble back the vibration damper, put it together and try it all on. Right, we have now fitted that on the bike. As a proof of concept, I think I'm pretty happy with where it is. It is slightly bulkier than the other device, but I can still see my screen. There is a bit more weight, first because I've got a heavier phone now, and there is that wireless charging head is slightly heavier as well, so I'm not sure how's that gonna work with a vibration damper, but it seems okay. As you can see, I've got my USB charger underneath, so that cable that goes to a wireless charging head will go from here to here. It's slightly too long for what I need, so I'm gonna have to lose that somehow, maybe just tie it together with a zip tie or something. But yeah, nonetheless, I'm pretty happy with the position, again because I've added so much bulk in here. Because of the charger and that, the phone is slightly closer to me than it was before, so I might look at changing the angle of that and kind of release those holding clamps here and tilt it forward slightly so the phone is slightly further away from me, to exaggerate in an angle like this as opposed to like this. So anyway, these are just minor adjustments. So let me then now take it apart and try to connect the USB charger to the bike and remove the old USB charger from behind the headlight. Right, we now need to remove the headlight. Before I do that, because I've got a windscreen installed, I'm gonna have to remove the windscreen. I've never done it before, but I'll try to remove just the plastic windscreen from here and remove the headlight assembly without removing the brackets. If that doesn't work, I'm gonna have to remove the brackets from the fork crown over here. It's doable, but the access is quite tight, so I'd prefer not having to remove them. But yeah, we'll see when I remove the plastic. The headlight is mounted by 4 bolts, 2 on each side, and it's got like well, I'll show you when I disassemble it, but basically it's got a hole in the bracket which slides over the bush. So in order to remove that headlight, you actually need to pull it left to remove that hole in the bracket from the bush, and then you slide it towards you. Otherwise you can pull however you want and it's not gonna come out. So let's try to do that now. And also bear in mind, this is not a video of how to connect to the factory 12-volt switch power that's hidden behind the headlight on this bike. I've got a separate video about that. Check it out. It's in the video description if you are interested in that sort of thing. Today, I'm just gonna be connecting to the harness that I've already made, meaning that the quad-lock USB charger will be routed somewhere underneath the headlight, and then I'm gonna solder it on to the harness that's been already made. It seems that fuse over here is actually for this USB charger here. The quad lock USB charger doesn't come with a inline fuse. Maybe they've got some more advanced circuitry that prevents an overload or something along this line, so I don't think I'm gonna bother with it anymore. So the plan is now to basically cut through my heat shrink and unsolder the USB charger and solder on the charging cable from quad lock. Right, I've provisionally attached this USB charger here. I routed the cable underneath the speedo. So it goes here and it then comes out here, and as you can see there is way too much cable for what I need. Obviously they design it in case someone wants to plug it into their battery, whereas I'm using the switched power supply, so I'm gonna cut it so it's long enough to reach the cables here, and it's got a little bit more slack, so if I ever decided to change the location of it, I'm not short for cables, so I might do a little bit more cable here and just hide it behind the headlight, but I definitely don't need all of that, so that will be trimmed. I was also trying to unsolder these connections, and then I've realized that actually these aren't soldered. This is just one piece of cable, and I've just cut the sleeve off to solder the other cable on. So ideally I would want to put a heat shrink on each cable, but I cannot do it now if I either disassembling this or disassembling something further up, which is basically too much hassle. So I'm just gonna solder on directly to here and put the electrical tape around it. It's gonna not gonna be as good as heat shrink, but it's gonna be better than nothing. I'm a little surprised because the cables for the quad lock charger look, well, very anemic in comparison to the cables I've got here, but hey, that is less than a mil. Yeah, 0.75. Yeah, it doesn't fill in with confidence, but hey, this is what it is. Okay, this is not my finest soldering, but it will have to do. I'm gonna put some more tape around this, and then I'm gonna put some more tape around the whole harness, and this way I'm hoping that will prevent from too much stress on those little cables. I'm not too happy with how thin they are, so hopefully by me taping the main or sort of the outer cable to the harness here, it will prevent from those little cables being exposed to too much tension. So the next step for me is to plug it into the factory outlet, which is somewhere here, if I remember correctly. if I'm doing it the right way, and then test if the charger works before we start assembling things. Okay, so I've got a charger here. As you can see, I've got a little device plugged into a charger which measures the amperes and voltage, and I've got a charging cable for the phone here. So I'm gonna turn the ignition on, and that should come on, fingers crossed. Okay, so we see 5.16 volts, and then if I take my old phone and plug it into here, I'm hoping that it will start charging. Yeah, it's doing something. So that seemed to be working. I obviously, yeah, 0.67 of an amp. I'm not sure if the old phone supports quick charge. My old phone supports quick charging, so I'm unable to test that functionality without using the phone that I'm filming with. So yeah, I'm gonna do that in a bit and make sure that everything's working correctly. Right, it's now time to put the headlight back on, and as you can see, there is that metal bush sticking out here, and we're gonna have to insert it into that rubber bush on this side. So again, this is the reason why you cannot just put it straight back on. You have to put it to the left and then slide it on and then put it back on. So a bit fiddly, but perfectly doable. Forgotten to mention the torque for the bolts is 8.5 Newton meters. I'm gonna put a drop of Loctite in there just in case. Obviously, don't forget to connect the headlight. You can always double check if it's working by turning the ignition on. Yeah, all good. Right, everything is mounted on the bike now. It seems to be working fine. Initially, I thought that something's wrong and it's not working. I've forgotten there is a switch underneath. So when I turned on the ignition initially, nothing happened and it wasn't charging the phone. That was until I press that switch underneath. So you know, so far so good. It's definitely charging using higher voltage than a normal USB. I've measured it using that little device that I've shown you. At the moment it was showing 6 volts, but I presume it will go up higher as it needs higher voltage. So yeah, so far it seems okay. As you can see, the vibration damper is underneath that, and then the charger is underneath that, and you know, that's the cable that goes to the headlight where we've soldered it on. Sorry, not the headlight, the 12-volt power output, and that's the cable that goes from the it's a USB-C at this end from the wireless charger onto that USB outlet. So if we turn on the ignition, I'm hoping that, and that's flashing, that's an error mode. and then blue means it's kind of ready to be charging your phone. So yeah, so far so good. One last thing, if you watch any of my other videos, you will know that I'm passionate about weight reduction, so I keep an eye on everything that I put on the bike and check what's the weight of it. So as you can see from that, wireless head, vibration damper, USB charger, and the handlebar mount with 2 extensions, that's a total of 266 grams. So, you know, not too bad considering the flexibility I get from it and, you know, ability to just take the phone off without having to faff about with cables and so on. So all in all, I'm pretty happy with the whole installation process. Obviously, I'm gonna have to test it while trail riding, but so far I'm pretty happy with everything. So thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions or comments, write them down in the comment section below the video, and I'll try to do my best to help you out. See you in the next video. Bye.